Trumpet, and we are going to continue our series. Going to jump right in here. We've got a lot to get to today. We are in Food Fight episode 3. Yes, Prophetic Trumpet, the prophetic unveiling that we're doing here at the top of the year. And we are in the third stage of Food Fight. Now, what some of you may be asking is the Food Fight, and what does this have to do with prophecy? I'm going to give it to you. See, in the last 2 weeks, preceding this obviously, that's the last 2 weeks, we've uncovered 5 methods in which we have seen that food is being used as a weapon, and it is setting us on the course for famine. Now, last week, we talked about the seizing of farmland and the war on farmers that is going on all over the world. We backed all of this up with scripture, obviously, to tie it into prophecy. Because prophetically speaking, in the New Testament, the prophecy of famine is spoke of 5 times. Matthew 24:7, Mark 13:8, Luke 21:11, Revelation 6 verse 8, and Revelation 18 verse 8. So in the last 3 years, food has shown itself to be a weapon, and we must ask, why is there a war on farmers? We covered that last week, not necessarily why, but that there is. And last week we also shared, the previous week, we shared about how governments are seizing farmland from the citizens. And this week we're going to take a look at yet another weapon that is being used against us as food is being used as a weapon. Now we're going to go to the Washington Times, July 7th, 2022 edition, labeled as the World's War on Farmers. And I'm going to give you a direct quote here. In the United States, farmers, we're told, are the backbone of America. However, the current administration, remember this is 22, the current administration clearly thinks otherwise. Last year, the administration added agricultural land to the Conservation Reserve Program. Under the controversial program, farmers are now encouraged to leave land, follow, F-A-L-L-O-W, not F-O-L-L-O-W. On closer inspection, the program is part of a broader government-wide push to halve, like cut in half, greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Interestingly, the Biden administration's goal is very similar to the Dutch government goal. Interesting. And it's kind of interesting that I could have swore we've talked about the year 2030 and the very, very first 25 episodes of the Prophetic Trumpet, and well, we're well over 100 episodes ago from that. Well over. So, boy, it shows you how prevalent and how consistent this message has been over the course of the last 2+ years. Now, let's shift here and let's go to jbs.org/agenda 2030 /farmers. Alex Newman is the author of this, and he reports the work in the Netherlands. You know, what we just alluded to from the Washington Times article we just read from, that the work in the Netherlands reported last week and alluded to above has seen resistance to the Dutch government that leads to the government coming in and destroying the homes and the property of farmers who have resisted the government and their efforts to take the land. What has resulted? These farmers, their families have had their houses taken. They have ended up in jail. Further reports that this has spread to Brazil. In Brazil, and I quote, remember this is jbs.org, and I quote, Fed Brazilian police and military, some wearing United Nations insignia, are forcibly relocating whole communities at gunpoint under the guise of returning this land to the Indians who claim that the land is ancestrally theirs. Well, I dug into that also, and no tribe in Brazil is even claiming this to be accurate, that the land even belonged to them in the olden days. So further, he reports that in South Africa, communists in power communists in power from the top are crying for the citizens to kill farmers. We have this on tape. We have it on tape that politicians are crying from their respective platforms to kill farmers violently and racially motivated rulings from above, and they're legalizing it. These farmers feed the majority of the entire continent of Africa. You don't think that's going to happen here in America, right? Well, in America, Mr. Newman reports that the Biden administration has instituted mass taxation towards farmers, and this is taking place in driving them from the land and selling their property for pennies on the dollar to your federal government. Yes, the very people who feed America are being put out of business by your federal government. Okay, so we've already covered two things. Let's go to a third point. The third point comes to us from theinternationalman.com. Doug Casey is the one that's reporting on this, on how the war on farmers could trigger a famine. Kind of really gets to the point that we've been trying to get towards here in just a mere 3 episodes. So, Doug Casey reports in this article that the Irish Parliament has mandated a severe reduction in the Irish cattle herd. You know, moo-moo type cows. About 65,000 cows have been culled over each of the next 3 years to reduce the herd by about 10%. For what purpose? What evil did these cattle do in order to get put on the death penalty? I'll tell you what they did. Nothing. It's all an effort to, and I quote, reduce carbon emissions and meet the United Nations carbon dictates by the year 2030. I want you to check into all this. All that we have reported. I want you to pay attention to what is consistently being said in these articles, because there are things I cannot say because this algorithm will trip this platform and this page will get taken down. Imagine the control institutions can have if they can control the food supply and literally dangle a carrot in front of the masses. Imagine that. While the whole time, famine is not just a prophecy. It's at the doorstep of this generation. We're just giving you the very beginning of this whole scenario. This is going to get a lot deeper and a lot uglier as we go on. Join us next week as we continue the series on the food fight. That's next week. And the Prophetic Trumpet will be episode 4 of the Prophetic Unveiling. And trust me, folks, we're going to go places that you never expected and expose things that you've probably never heard of. Join us Saturday as we continue our series on the book of Colossians and just what Paul is saying in the book of Colossians. Please please share this message. Please help us get the truth of God out there. And may the Lord bless you for doing it. Take care now.